our lunch break. We have with us Dr. Ralph Grothman. Is Mr. Grothman here? Just make there you are. Good. Sorry, we did a lot of interviews beforehand. Mr. Grothman, welcome. He's with Siemens Data Lab Deutschland. Then we have Julia Imlauer, and Julia is with robotics, ML expert, and AI enthusiast. Then we have Pauline Lux, who I have not met in person yet. Pauline is you. Hello, Pauline. I know we were in email contact. She's with Basler AG. Joining us virtually, we have Christopher Oberrader, a fund manager. Hello, Christopher. Can you hear us okay?
Thank you. Yes, I can hear you well. Thank you.
Great. And where are you joining us from?
So I'm based in the US, and yeah, so after this I have to be in New York. I thought about flying to Hamburg. I would have loved to be there with you guys. Difficult today, but next time, and thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. Even if it's digitally, we're happy to see you. And finally, we have Daniel Szabo, who is CEO of the Körber Digital. So we're going to be discussing today our panel, which is what it takes to build an AI-centered enterprise. And the way I envision this, I'm going to ask this question first to all of our speakers, maybe a brief answer to this, and then, of course, we've prepared some questions for you. But certainly, again, I'll be stopping from time to time, and if you have questions in the audience, we'll run over to the microphone and let you do that as well. So if we can just maybe start right here and go with Julia to this question, what it takes to build an AI-centered enterprise. Maybe a short introduction, under 2 minutes, and also the answer to this question. Oh, yes, of course, we have microphones for you, too. Make sure you can tap on it to make sure it's good. Sounds good. OK, please, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think you need first a few prerequisites. You need a project which is really capable, where you can apply AI, where it makes sense, not only of the sake of applying AI, but really where it makes sense. And you have a team with the hard skills, which is capable of implementing this project. What you need then, from the company perspective, is really a bottom-up approach. So this team really advocating for this project, getting everyone on board, making sure everyone understands what this team is doing, and a top-down approach simultaneously, where you have the top management really also advocating for this project, the additional costs which it takes in the beginning, and hopefully it comes all together and the project will be successful.
Excellent. Christopher, we'll go down the line. So virtually go to you first. Christopher, go ahead.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. So I would say first identify how you can improve, for example, a process or something where you, for example, collect a lot of data and then go from there. So like you need to solve some kind of problem or improve something that's not so efficient right now. I think it's coming into all areas right now, and I'm seeing it always from an investment perspective. I'm seeing a lot of projects arising from around the world, and then, yeah, so basically identify the problem that you can improve with AI. Is there something you can improve? And that's the issue also for many companies right now, because they don't have the AI capacities or the people that actually know a lot about AI. But that's changing rapidly now, and I think we're seeing it a lot like across all industries now, that change is already happening in this moment. Yes.
Great, thank you. Pauline, opening, please.
Yes, thank you. So my short answer to that one would be breaking down the buzzword AI. Understand what you're doing there and understand what does make sense for your enterprise actually to go with, because NLPs, computer vision, completely different scenarios where AI takes place and can bring value for your business. So definitely understand what you're doing there and not speaking about AI as it is magic.
Very good. Ralph?
I think AI is not a self-purpose. AI is a cross-sectional technology, in fact, mathematics and statistics. And you have to understand that it's only a small piece of the value chain. You have to gather your data from the brownfield or from the factory level. You have to bring it up on the enterprise level to analyze it, or to bring it even further up on the cloud level. So there is lots of infrastructure needed. And you have to have deployment mechanisms, how to bring data up, how to bring your model down, dealing with security issues and stuff like that. So you have to have a holistic view, and you have to ask the right questions. So what would you like to do with the data, and what is the goal of a specific use case? And then you have to evaluate if it makes sense or not to use artificial intelligence and not referring to, let's say, conventional statistics.
Excellent, thank you. Daniel, what it takes to build an AI-centered enterprise.
First of all, thank you for having me here, and it's great to see that Hamburg is also rising on the AI landscape, so a great initiative. So I think what it takes is, it's a complicated one. It takes really a lot of things, and it's not so much about the technology in my eyes. It's a very complex team sport, and it's mainly around the value that you can create. And the value starts with the applications, the use cases, and you really need to bring along a lot of people, a lot of experts, a lot of domain expertise, and combine that with the technological components. In my eyes, the issue is less the technology, the data ingestion, the data quality. It's more about the use cases and bringing along the organizations in order to create value out of it, because AI that doesn't create any value will not last for a very long time. So it's really about thinking about it holistically and from the value. And the technology is there, it's improving all the time, super fascinating. It gets easier to create value with less effort, but still, you need to focus on the value.
Good, thank you. I see we have an extra microphone that's for the Q&A later. If you can pass it over to Pauline, then we'll have 2 microphones there. So, when we did our preparation, I told our speakers I will be asking a few questions that we've prepared together with our AI Hamburg team, and then afterwards we'll be opening up for a Q&A round. This is considered a panel discussion, so you don't have to wait for my question. You're more than welcome to interrupt, debate, or discuss things together. Let's begin with the first one, and it's open to anyone on the panel. What are the key considerations and challenges when building an AI-centered enterprise from both technical and strategic perspectives? Maybe we should start with Ralph. I see, yeah. And if you can talk nice and loud into the microphone, that'll be great.
Yes.
Sure.
Well, as you said, you can start it with a use case, and then, for instance, in terms of processes and process automation, you can use AI for automation. Visual quality inspections, for instance, where expert skills are needed to evaluate the quality of a product from a visual perspective. And here, AI can assist in terms of image processing, image recognition. Then you have to think how you bring this into the value chain in the production process. You need a camera, you need an edge device, you have to connect those devices, and so you start thinking about what is the appropriate infrastructure. And then it's not only a single use case, but you have multiple use cases, different types of data, and you have to be prepared for that. And then maybe it's not only one factory site, but there are many factory sites. Like, I mean, Siemens is operating nearly in every German city, an office, and also production factories and stuff like that. So you have to think where to bring the data. Then you want to leave it on the company level, or you want to put it up also on a cloud level. You want to share the data. You want to share the data with your customers. So it's depending on the different angle you look at, it's an explosion in different dimensionalities and complexity.
Mm-hmm. I think Julia, you want to add, and then Pauline, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think I want to add on that, and it goes into the same direction. I think what we are currently really good at is also building prototypes. So we are quite fast in demonstrating that we are usually capable of doing it. But when it comes to the deployment, we have huge troubles. This is exactly when it comes to rolling it out to the factories, but also for smaller businesses, really deploying the product to the customer. So it's about bringing it then from your on-premise, somehow you run it thingy, to a customer can use it. It's really a big challenge. And when it comes to that, we also have to keep an eye on the operational costs. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing when it comes to deployment. And I mean, there are a lot of jokes outside when it comes to cloud bills, which are exploding at some point.
Yeah. Excellent, thank you.
I can really support this, because I mean, a successful proof of concept does not mean that you have an operational, robust solution, and it takes maybe not years, but I mean months, or let's say hard work to build an operational system that you can trust and that is robust out of a POC.
Okay, Dan, and then Pauline's been waiting. Go ahead, Daniel.
Just adding to that, and I think there's the notion very much around, especially on shop floor applications, so manufacturing application. IoT, Industry 4.0 in Germany, it's all solved, it's all digital. I mean, we are active in that field, nothing is solved there. This is super rudimentary, it's super hard to connect machines, it's super tedious to annotate the data flow, and that's where it starts. And then the trickiness, and now we come back to the topic of value, it's very hard to find applications that create enough value to go through all of that hassle, because you have a lot of brownfield installations, old installations, and it makes it super tough and difficult.
Super. Pauline?
Yeah, I think what you just said underlines that quite well, that it's hard for someone who's not into that digital topic so far to just implement and deploy those AI applications, actually, because you're sticking to a complete different workflow when setting that up, because it's not only deployed once, you have to think about that more than twice to do so, and to rebuild that stuff and to really scale that on a level where it does make sense, and to capture all, or really be able to capture all the costs that go handy with that. This is a tough one. So you definitely have to think about deployment and the infrastructure to build that up in parallel. And then it's not a matter of technology anymore.
Yep, great point. Very big challenge. Christopher, would you like to join in, please?
Yeah, I would just also add to that then. Also, like that's the basis, basically, that over the last 10 years, like the amount of data has just been exploding. We have all this data now. Then we need to look at the quality of it, analyze that, and then we need to somehow process it. So I think like it's the mix between all this data that we have, then looking at the quality, and then also what we've heard before, like pattern recognition, and also like in general recognition of like images. Like it's a lot has been done in that space already. So for example, in factories, a lot is happening. Like if there's a fault in something, then you can see the fault by the image recognition. And this, like AI is really doing a lot on that field already. And manually, you could never do it. And AI allows us to help in these areas. So I think that's the real revolution, is that with this amount of data, we could never do it manually, and AI can actually help us to do it. We just, as mentioned before, need the processing power and the servers for that. So that's the only thing we need. And then we can actually handle this data. Without this technology, we would never be able to handle this data ourselves. It would take years to look into that.
Good point. Processing power. It's coming. Will it take months or years? We don't know, but I'm certainly sure it's coming. Anyone else on this thing? Please, Ralph.
I mean, with respect to data, you have to be careful. I mean, data is like an avalanche. You can be drowned in data, and you have to know what is the right data that you have to seek in order to solve the use case at hand. So this brings in domain knowledge and expert knowledge in order to single out the right data out of this ocean of data. And then, of course, you have to ask what is then the right method and methodology to analyze the data. And then, of course, you have a model, and then you start thinking about the deployment. But it's essential. Data itself it's a must-have, but it's meaningless.
Okay, good. I'll be coming. Do any questions so far? If I'm looking around the room, I see one of your hands. Good. I'm going to do one more question, and then we'll go right into the Q&A round. I'll begin. We want to make it more focused, and one of the questions we came up with in our discussion, so imagine I'm a mid-sized German company outside of beautiful Hamburg, and my company has talked about digitalization for the past 20 years. How and where can we take the first steps to leverage AI? To our panel, please.
So I think that we discussed a lot about applications, manufacturing, and so on. Unfortunately, I would not start there because that's super tough, right? You start with like one of the tougher cookie problems. I think what is very nice and interesting, you can use very straightforward AI applications along the lines of sales forecasting, marketing optimization, pricing optimization, and in these fields, because you don't need to connect so many data sources, you can do a lot of things rather easily, straightforward with almost productized offerings or with little implementation effort from specialized consultants. And this is where I would start, because I'm always a firm believer that you need to generate quick wins, you need to show value that people start believing, and that's the reason I would start in that domain, even though that is probably one of the less exciting ones if you're deep into AI, but I would start there.
Pauline, please.
I would like to add on that, for example, starting with kind of things like automation things in factory automation, for example, where you are dealing with computer vision tasks. And I think this completely goes with the amount of data that we have there, that we can see if it worked out good or bad. And the expectation, therefore, is so high that it's hard to get that done, I think. So why not starting with things where we are, for example, just predicting things to happen in the future that we cannot, I would say, correct right now. So not going with things that are hard to handle for me to set my expectation low.
Excellent. Expectations. Julia, please.
Yeah, I would like to follow my previous speakers here. I think it's really looking at the applications which are currently really painful and drowning and repetitive. So tasks that people don't really like to do. If you can automate that, and with a tool which is already existing, you get your people on board. And I think that's what it really takes if you are not a tech company, really making your employers believe in the technology. If you don't have them on board, it gets super hard to implement anything further.
Absolutely, which takes good leadership, which is always important in any company. Good. Anyone else? Christopher, anything you want to say to that?
Yeah, I would add to that, that's talking about like also mundane tasks that no one actually wants to handle. And there's like methods, for example, for customer service or customer support, like it's already in use and you can just, for example, categorize requests that you get easier and then more efficiently and just make it like then also give your employees like answers that are like, and this could work, and then they just need to look over it and then send it off basically. Like that's already been like tested and it's proven that it works. So like try it for things that are really easy. This is like one that you can implement very fast and then go from there and just get basically into it, I would say. And this works, so yes.
Excellent, very good. Good, I think I'm gonna continue now and go straight to our Q&A. If we can turn on the Q&A microphone here, we'll make room. Just one bitte, recommendation to our audience members, please try to keep the questions as short as possible, and also the answers, we have to try to keep as short as possible as well. Go ahead.
Volker Kohl, Nova Motum. I learned that data are not so important. My question is, how important is the question of tokenization with OpenAI API? So if a company using AI and their IT department is developing on APIs by OpenAI, it costs money and it's not transparent. Is that a problem to your clients?
Tokenization. To anyone on the panel.
In our case, it's not an issue. First of all, I mean, we do build these applications, but there's ways around it to reduce the tokens that you can use. So on the one hand side, but there's a lot of applications beyond generative AI and beyond OpenAI where you basically don't need any of that. So I think it's not the key issue at the moment. And if you have high-fruit applications, then you probably would go open source, do it differently. I would not say that that's hindering.
Good. Continue on. Next question here, and I'll go to you.
How can companies ensure that their AI systems remain adaptable and scalable, especially with the AI fast, rapidly changing technology? Every week there's a new open source project, new research papers that just disrupt the technology.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think it's really important here to not jump on every train just because the paper is out. I don't know how many thousands of AI papers are published every probably month now. So it's really important to focus on your use case, your application, and then also define where your pain is. And for me, when it comes really to the application and the deployment, you really need an automation chain. You need DevOps people, you need MLOps people in your chain who are experts and who love to build these tools. Otherwise, if you only have ML engineers who love to play around with the models, it gets really hard.
And you have to have such kind of infrastructure, because if not, you cannot scale it. I mean, it is about automated model building, deploying models, and then ensuring that those models also work.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else? Well, go ahead. We have a question. Oh, yeah, please go ahead, Christopher.
I would also add something there. Like if you just follow all the papers, like every month there's like 1,000 new projects, and like it's a full-time job for like 5 people to follow everything. So like it's impossible for you to follow everything. Just maybe stay updated, but it's impossible. If the team is small, you can't try out everything. So you can only even if you're in the sector, you don't know every tool that's out there already, even if you test all day right now. So this is the toughest part, to stay up to date. But the applications that work, you'll hear from them quickly. So you'll hear earlier from them. The ones that work, you'll find out that they're working for others. And also maybe ask around in your industry, what are others using? If you have some colleagues in other companies, ask them, what are you guys using? How are you implementing it right now? And what are the main benefits for you right now? They might actually share it with you, and then it makes it easier for you to get a kickstart there.
Great, thank you. Our next question, the young lady in front of me, please, and I'll come to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My question is, because we talk about AI from, you guys talked about AI from the technical perspective and the strategic perspective. I want to talk about, I don't know if I can call it cultural perspective, because there is always this idea of AI being buzzword, as you rightly put it, underestimating the complexity of developing AI-driven systems and overestimating what it can do, especially the time it takes from idea to the deployment. It's a lot. And so how can we deal with this? Sometimes it feels like, do we need to have something like AI literacy in the company to make them aware of how long it will take? Thank you.
Super valuable point. I think there's two things about it. I think AI literacy, so we, for example, offer that for a lot of customers, and we get a lot of requests for that AI literacy training, especially for executives, to even understand the art of the possible, just to get the bare concepts right. This is not about implementation, it's just understanding what can be done and where it's useful. I think it's super helpful, and that is crucial and key. And I think the second one is what I've seen in a lot of especially smaller organizations, falling down this trap to hire somebody and say, now I have this AI person, which is very often not even a data scientist, just somebody who calls them like that, and they're thinking, now we can do this. The issue is a little bit, and it came out earlier before, is it's very complex to build products, not something you play around with it, and you need a full village of experts to run and build that. And that also means, at least in my understanding and learnings, you need to be a very, very big, mature organization to do this. You better rely on service partners who have all of these competences, because otherwise you will just, you will never get that scalable. But curious also to hear the other opinions.
I'd like to add, one factor for a successful AI project or its implementation is user experience. So taking care about who is interacting with the model, what are the different roles, how will the process that you look at change after you implemented that model. And here you have to take care of the humans, because what is the output of an AI model, and is it straightforward to understand this or not, and how to interpret it, and so on and so forth. It's also about acceptance. You can have a perfect model working, but if all guys dealing with it are not willing to deal with it, then you have nothing again.
And maybe to add on that, like the perfect model, what you just said, it could be perfect, definitely, but what does it mean? So for me, it's perfect when it, I don't know, recognizes my bottle and it's only water bottle, what I mean. But for you guys, it's completely different. So definitely not perfect at all, but I built the model so far, so it's perfect for me. And we have to speak about the context that we are dealing then with the AI problem here, and that you cannot expect that it's like we have a people detection net here, perfect, working everywhere, that it's not bias caused and that stuff. So really dealing with the expectations here and settle it down to a context where you can have easy and quick wins, I would say.
Great. We have a couple more questions, great questions. I'd like to go a little bit to this side of the room, and then I'll make my way back here. Sir, please.
Thank you. You know, what I hate the most is when I start my communication program, I don't name it, and then there's a dialog opening, a new version needs to be installed, and then there's new buttons, or old buttons have changed their positions, right? So I would like to hear your opinion on language models being used in applications, right? So if then, there's flexibility, however, the employees might not be prepared for, having this kind of flexible dialogues, and maybe it starts out to get worse even. I mean, the productivity. I'm just speculating.
So concretely, the question
is, do you think it's always beneficial to have language models, or to put it another way, what must be done to make sure that the systems are not too adaptive?
Great, thank you. And of course, Christopher, since you're digitally there, if you want to answer at any time, just put your hand up so that we have an indication, okay? Please go ahead, Pauline.
I would say it's definitely not all the time good that we have them, but I think it's definitely a step forward because it's just another tool, I would say. So I think you all know Google pretty well, and you are using it the whole day, or actually most times of the day when you are not knowing an answer to something. And I think ChatGPT, for example, or just language models are the next step, that I can ask in a way that I want to ask that question, and not the way how Google wants to put me the question into Google. So it's completely more better user experience here, and therefore it's going that fast. So we need, I think, to adapt to that, but have in mind fake news, we heard it already everywhere, and we need to have that in mind and check the sources here.
I think very interesting thought, and just like 2 inputs to this one. If you think about it, 15 years ago, a graphical user interface was invented that was making it available for a lot of people, and what made software stick and so profitable was the user experience, because people didn't want to have new buttons, and that was usable. And now I think we are running in this situation where potentially, I mean, I also don't know what the answer is, otherwise probably would put a lot of chips on this one, is the graphical user interface might be replaced with language interface, and that has a lot of implications if you think about it. Then software doesn't become sticky anymore, because then it just really doesn't matter. You don't need to get on, you can just keep legacy systems running if you manage the interface to that product via voice, and there's a lot of interesting implications. I think that's a very intriguing concept, and it's actually scary if you think about it. Graphical user interface just 15 years ago, basically rolling out. It's not felt like a long time, but it's not a very long time, and that is very, very interesting.
Julia?
Yeah. So I think jumping into that as technician, I have to say, when we have a technology where I see value and speeding up things, I'm definitely into it and say, yes, we need to use it. But I think what's underlaying your question is, if you roll it out to your employees, it's a transformation process. And you need to handle this transformation process and support the people to get adapted to it. Maybe it's for someone like me getting the new technology, I'm super excited, I love to use it. But there are people who are like, I haven't used it for the last 10 years, I don't want to use it. And it's totally fine, so you really need to deal with it. Again, otherwise, if you lose the employees, it doesn't help you.
Final word, Ralph?
I mean, I think you have to lower the entrance barrier to use the new technologies. I mean, when you think about what it took to configure a web VLAN router, you needed a diploma for this, and nowadays you just plug it in, enter 2 numbers, and it's running. And the goal should be in terms of how to use AI, that you do not need expert skills, but you concentrate on the problem.
Great, thank you. On this side of the room, we have 2 questions here, 1 and 2. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, hi, Marcus from Airbus Cognitive Engineering. So 1 question, nice discussion. We always say context is everything. So today, if we see ChatGPT is, let's say, a new way to, we say, interact, but how I think the potential is not fully there yet, because imagine situational awareness, context assessment, when the interface will be completely rolled out and the system would see, okay, which context I'm in, what's my situation. So not just providing me information through the language, but considering all the things behind would probably solve also the problem of user experience and the interface design.
So can we have now the question?
The question is, so how do you see, when will we have bidirectional systems shining up that the data in real time will be updated and adapt to the actual situation?
Does anyone want to take a shot at that?
Yeah, I would just,
Oh,
I would
Christopher.
add, yeah, just quickly from that side, I would add that like this is all just, it's starting like the AI, like AI has started like officially since 1956, but, or you could say 1950, but usually we refer to 1956, but and now over the last like 3 years, it really took like a huge leap forward, and it's just like the whole impact, we'll see it over the next 10 to 20 years. And people are already saying that the impact that electricity had on the industrial revolution, it's a similar impact that AI will have over the coming like 20 to 30 years. So I think it's like what we've seen with ChatGPT, this, like they've been working on it for a few years, of course, but a few years is like, they came really far already in a few years now, and just think like the next 3 years, then I think it takes a bit longer, but it's improving like every like 6 months, 12 months, like immensely. Now I think it's like a very interesting improvement curve. So I would just give it a bit more time, and you'll see like there's a lot more improvement, and that's referring again back to the server processing and all of that. Once we get better on the like powering all of this AI revolution, which is also happening right now, then there's nothing holding it back really. So I think it's just a matter of time, and the whole world is working on it, and everyone is also referring to literacy. Everyone is learning about it right now. It's relatively new for everyone. Not everyone, but many people, it's relatively new, and it's a learning process. And now it's just a testing on what can we improve with this, and how can we get better. So that's just a general thought on that.
Good. Anyone else?
Just a quick one. I think like where you can see this a little bit is like if you go to the search website u.com, I think they do like a very great job in combining basically large language models with search. Super impressive with very little budgets. I think that's super impressive to be seen how they're scaling out. And ChatGPT released, I think yesterday, that you can now use it on Bing. Still Bing, but that you have a foundation. But I think there you can start seeing a little bit where this is coming, right? But this is a little bit different, right? It's basically semantic search and then just summarizing what they find. But for me, I think if you play a little bit with this, I think you can see where the future is going. Can just recommend that to everyone.
Okay, final word, please.
What I'm missing here, I mean, it's not only with ChatGPT, but also with Google, is not only the answer that is provided, but an assessment of the certainty that AI has, how reliable the answer is. I mean, if you are in the middle of the data distribution, then it's fine and you can trust it. But if you move to the left and to the right, and you are at the tails of the distribution, it might not be reliable what the thing thinks is the right answer.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. We have time for
It's a little bit technical.
I'm sorry. Someone. Okay, time for 2 or 3 more questions. Gentlemen here, I see in the back too. Go ahead. And then I have you in the front also. Yes.
I want to hook into what Daniel Szabo said about the common mistake of hiring one AI expert and then expecting all AI projects to just happen, I imagine. So I would be interested what your collective advice would be about building competency at companies, building up team structures, maybe common organizational pitfalls you've also seen in your projects. Like, who do you upskill? Who do you maybe rather work with externally, as you suggested as well? Just your general thought on building competency, building up teams for like the first AI project at mid-sized German companies, for example.
Very good. Thank you.
I might jump into that. So for me, I think it always depends on your use case. If you want really to go into this ML application development, so you want at some point to train your model, deploy your model, really do the full pipeline. So I think what's for me important is you need, how I'd like to call it, like this first row people who are not only specialized as an ML engineer or data scientist, but more generalists who can take on a few of those roles. If you have a look at ML roles currently, I think there are, I don't know, 10, 15 roles out there. And as a mid-sized German company, you can't hire just a new team of 10 to 15 people. It's simply unfeasible. So you need, in the beginning, this first row people who are generalists, who can start building up things, and then also either train the people in the company or really get people from outside. But usually you have a good, if you have a good pick, those people have a network, or they might attract other talents.
I would maybe add, like, I think if you start with the first role, I think you need to hire somebody who is the translator and can see the value and say, hey, this problem we can actually solve with an effort. I think that, like, so kind of like a product owner, product manager, I think that's the first step. And then, depending on it, you need to crawl along the way, but I would really highly warn everyone, don't hire like a super technical person in the beginning, because then you don't find the use cases, and then you wonder why this will not take off. I think this is the first start, and then depending on the use case, start adding to it. And second person would be probably something like a generalist to say, but I think the first really need is somebody who understands the art of the possible and the use cases and starts identifying where something can be done quickly.
But I hope you have it when you really want to start an ML team. You have already someone in the company who...
Hopefully, yeah.
I would add to that what you just said, that I think the least dramatic problem is building up a model afterwards, because if you're just going on Stack Overflow or wherever you go, this is the easiest thing. But building up the whole back end for that, and to make that working with your, for example, existing machines and that stuff, you need someone who's not into that ML part, but who's doing this generic stuff and really can see what to do with infrastructure and that topic.
Excellent. We're in the back of the room. Ralph, did you want one last point, or no?
Maybe think in first place if you want to ramp it up on your own, or if it might be a good idea to outsource it and to buy, let's say, AI from a company that does this on a let's say daily basis, or where, and then you concentrate on your core business and have AI services.
Great, thank you. We're in the back of the room here. We've got time for 2 or 3 more questions. Please, the questions short. Young lady, I'll make it 4, of course, and the answers as well. Please.
Now, thank you for sharing your views. Now, you probably are the greatest enthusiasts for artificial intelligence, because I think you are working for many years now. But at the same time, you're toning down our enthusiasm by talking about your skepticism at the same time. So can you help us leave the room with more enthusiasm, or should we learn more and see both sides of things?
Thank you.
It's a good comment. I think there's tons of value there. You just need to start with a use case and just get going, and don't get like your data lake set up. And so just start with something that generates value. And there's a lot of use cases, but just move. I think that's the thing. Move, create value, and don't start with the hardest problems, because that typically then you will get stuck. So that would be my advice. But there's tons of quick wins that you can do. And the easiest one, take like a niche partner who, like, there's a lot of small specialized firms out there, would not go with the big firms, and then go and start with some concrete topics. And for 50 to 100K, you can really do magic, but you just need to move. Yeah.
And maybe an example on that, because I think really things where you are not feeling that it's AI, and where maybe AI is not standing on the logo or whatever, these are, I think, the greatest things, because the ones that are really carrying are solving the most problems. For example, I don't know who's into Lego, for example, and having the issue that everything is a mess. You have bricks and you are not able to build things, and they have like a really smart app just giving you an idea what you can build out of your bricks crush here, and this is quite nice. And I'm always like really happy about such small things, not really creating enterprise businesses here, but it's great to see AI working and leaving us with a smile, actually.
Very good. The young woman here, please.
Yeah.
If you can pass that down. Yeah.
So thank you very much. I'm a student currently completing my bachelor's in international relations, but I'm also getting into the field of data science, which is somewhat of a different fields, you could say. But I would like to know more about what kind of synergies you see between AI and policy making and like this sort of like social sciences approach. Because we've seen, we've taken a look into business and innovation, but how do you think that this whole AI revolution will actually impact policy making and sort of politics as well, and like this part of the social sciences field? Thank you.
Thank you.
I think like if you think a little bit back to DSGVO, so data privacy, what happened there and the implications on a lot of sides. I think this will come exponent factor 10 around the AI Act and the regulation around AI and data usage and ethical AI and so on. But it's just going to be a little bit slower because there's, if you're deep in the field, there's not so many applications out there that scaled. But this will come. So I think that will influence a lot of things. And around the social sciences, it will come up with a lot of new problems, right? Around copywriting, proprietary data, when can you use it? So like there will be a lot of new topics, problems, and challenges coming up that will need to be somehow solved and addressed. So I think that is going to be quite interesting because a lot of those things are also going to be hard to be identified. I think there is a lot of things going to happen.
I would like to add on that. So when you really talk about policy making, it's about the tooling, how we can support politicians also in creating, for example, laws. So all these legal tools, I think we will see a big boost there because this is currently a pain if you need to look up all the implications, and we could make some suggestions. I'm pretty sure we'll see great applications there. And yeah, talking about social sciences, I see really a big push in the future in EdTech, that we really have a better learning experience, so not only for children, but also for adults. And I think we will see tons of new applications and tools out there.
I don't think that is really new to have AI here, or let's say mathematics. I mean, you can, when you like utility theory, you can derive utility theory from psychology and do your reasoning there. And you can use, or you can derive Gosson's law by a mathematical approach. And this is just having a different model in mind. But you come to the same conclusions. And the same is with AI. It opens up a new, let's say, modeling framework that you can use for also social economic problems.
Super. Final two questions, since we're running out of time. The question is fine, and then just one person should answer it. So whoever is very eager to answer that question can do it. 1, 2, I see also, I always like to balance women in there, so the woman in the back will have the last question, we'll make it 3, but one person will answer the question on our speed round. Please.
Hi. My question would have been interesting to hear all of your opinions on it, but then
lunch break.
Maybe just one or two. So how do you think the different development curves or adoption curves of AI are like separated all over the world? So in the US, we have more of a hype. The EU is more on regulation, like leader, I think, when it comes to that. China, we don't know, also like other regions in the world. How do you think those regions compare in the different, how do you say that, regions of adoption of AI when it comes to legal, how it comes to talent, like how to grow talent in the different regions, and when it comes to like the actual hype and adoption of the technology? And also maybe in that context.
It. Sorry, we got to keep it short. I apologize. Go ahead.
Okay, what we see currently is Europe is definitely amongst the leading areas when it comes to AI research and the paper publications. So we have a lot of talents here. Although we see the skepticism about AI, so what is telling me, okay, we do a really bad job in bringing the technology to the people. So that's what we need to get better, and what it's definitely better in the US and especially also in the Asian countries.
Super, thank you.
Yeah. I would just add one thing.
Very
there,
short, Christopher, very short.
Very short, like in the US, 83%, there was like research from May 2023, 83% of companies are looking into implementing at least one AI tool or bringing AI into their business, and that shows like the adoption is really high in the US. So just adding that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, please go ahead.
Hi, and thank you for the opportunity. So basically, these days, you see a lot of open source models coming up, like almost new open source models, like almost each week, I think. And on the other hand, you have big tech companies such as OpenAI, Google, and also Microsoft offering their API to be used as a model. Let's say you're now having a new use case and you need to decide which model you need to, or how to build the model, whether taking an open source model and train it with your own data or actually using directly an API. How is your experience on building such a model?
Just one person, short answer.
I would say definitely depends on your problem. If it's like a task where you can go with generic things that are out there and where you can reuse weights, for example, just go ahead, use it definitely. You don't have to do the work twice. So, but if you're having a custom problem where your specific problem has not been solved out there, then the API is not really fitting to you. Depends on like the amount of training you want to put into and how advanced you are in your company dealing with a new kind of model and maybe new algorithms, new models, architectures going ahead here.
Final question, please.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm a big fond of startup corporate partnerships. And I think Olli said it in his previous speech. There have been 80 million AI experts in Germany, while if we look at it, it's only a few. So partnering gets even more important. So where do you think, as we also will have startup pitches afterwards, where do you think makes AI partnership sense, whereas to building it in-house? Talking about use cases.
Super. Thank you.
I think it really depends on the company and the use case. So if you already have a team in-house which can do the application, which can run it and has the capabilities and the resources, it might make sense to first look in-house. But if you really need to start from scratch, as you already said, and you don't have the resources and the talents in-house, look for corporations.
I think it's also the area of competencies and the complexity of the use case. And I mean, AI is such a broad field. You can do time series analysis, you can do image processing, you can have large language models and so on. And I mean, not every data scientist is an expert on all those fields. So it really depends on the use case where you cooperate and where you do it on your own.
Super. On a conclusion note, sometimes on the panels, I like to ask a final question to our speakers. And by the way, thank you for the excellent questions for our rounds here. And the answer should be in one sentence, if possible. So keep it sweet and simple. KISS. What is your takeaway if you want to get started with an AI in your company? Somebody's out there and says, I want to get started right away with AI in my company. One sentence. I'll start with Daniel and work our way back here.
Focus on a quick win use case that creates winners immediately. And remember, building an AI product takes a village, so think twice about it.
Great. Please. We'll hold it. Oh, okay, you can applaud if you want. And in the end, of course, we'll give everyone an applause. Go ahead.
I like to repeat that. Plus, build it in a team where you have different skills from data engineering to IT engineering, data science, and also user experience.
Good. Next one.
I think same with other technologies, but first think about the value and what does it mean to create that value.
Great. Thank you. Christopher.
And I would add, at the beginning, don't have the expectations too high. Don't think that it will change everything at the beginning, but just get started with it. And then along the way, it will change everything, but maybe not in the first months.
Yeah. And Julia? It's always tough being the last one, I know.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I think it's about the use case, the value. You need to demonstrate it quickly, so there's a high pressure. But in the end, really make sure the team is also enjoying it, what we had, and really this positive mindset about doing the change and feeling that it's supported and making a difference with this application.
Super. Julia, Christopher, Pauline, Ralph, and Daniel, thank you very much for an excellent panel discussion. We really appreciate it.